Oh, it's my thrill and delight to welcome you to Elegant Authority, a framework to own the room, speak your truth, and be the brand. Be the brand that you were created to be, destined to be, and designed to be because you are iconic by design and you have full permission to be unapologetically iconic. So, as we get into the training, here are three things you need to know. One, set aside 30 minutes, have a pen and a notebook, and stay to the end for a very special backstage offer. Now, there are three key takeaways I want to make sure that you have after you walk through this training. One is how to command presence without performing. Two, how to position your market value with clarity and conviction. And three, express. You're going to learn how to express your personal brand through grounded, graceful presence. Now, I love this quote: be messy and complicated and afraid, but show up anyway. I love it because Keandra always talks about doing it anyway. So I know that that is a core principle that's part of this program. Now, before we get into the framework of elegant authority, let's talk about these three mistakes keeping you invisible and under the radar. Invisible and under the radar. The first one is you might be showing up, but not fully yourself. You know, you dial it back a little bit, you dim it down a little bit. You don't want to be too much, too bold, too anything. You want to be just enough so you can be accepted. We know that happens. Or you're explaining instead of positioning. This one is where you explain why you're, doing what you're doing or charging what you're charging or whatever, that over explaining that we have a tendency to do sometimes, instead of totally positioning yourself in a way that people lean in, listen more, and want to be a part of what you're doing. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then the third mistake that you might be making is that you're actually performing instead of just being who you are, being who you were created to be, being your true self. And here's what I know: some people may not even know their true selves. Now, that's a whole topic by itself. Okay. All right. So, those are three mistakes. And think about, maybe pause this and think about where you might be falling within any of those, some of those, or maybe all of those. All right. How did I get here? These are what I call my receipts, and these are just a little bit. This is just a fraction of what I call my receipts and how I've gotten to where I am. And you see, there are all these pictures of me speaking or of me hosting events, of me traveling and winning. I've won a few awards. I've been on television. I mean, when I think about it and I remember my receipts, it's pretty it's pretty amazing, and I get a little impressed with myself. But but doing all of this that I've done over more than a decade, one thing I've learned is something called the power of elegant authority. The power of elegant authority. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about elegant authority, and we're going to talk about a framework. So what is it? What is elegant authority? You hear people talking about authority. What is elegant authority? Here's my definition that I want to give to you that I want you to use and leverage in your business as you are growing your personal brand. Elegant authority is the ability to command presence, communicate value, and amplify your visibility without performing, over explaining, or compromising who you are. That's elegant authority. Elegant authority, the ability, take a screenshot if you need to, the ability to command presence, communicate value, and amplify your visibility without performing, over explaining, or compromising who you are. Okay, now let's get into the framework. The elegant authority has three pillars, and we're going to go through each pillar. Okay, so the first pillar is presence. Presence. Presence is about how you enter the room. But I want to go a little deeper. I want to go a little deeper because your presence has the power to shift the atmosphere without even trying. Your presence has the power to shift the atmosphere without even trying. Because true presence is not loud. Your presence itself is not loud. It comes in, it's not demanding, it doesn't hustle for attention. It just is. It's not performance. Your presence is power. It's power. It's the ability, and I want you to get this piece. It's the ability to shift the atmosphere in a room without even opening your mouth. Without even opening your mouth. So have you ever been somewhere and when someone has walked into the space and the energy changes, something shifts? That's presence. Now here's the deal. It can shift one way or it can shift totally the other way. I want you to be intentional about how you are shifting the atmosphere. I want you to be intentional about how you are showing up in a room, how you are taking up space, how your presence is being felt. Okay? Because in order to create that kind of shift that you want to, you have to be fully aligned to the truth of who you are. The truth of who you are. And here's the thing, once you hone in on your presence, and you have that elegant authority, you've mastered elegant authority, you're not going to mute yourself. You're not going to dim your light. You're not going to second guess who you are or why you're in the room. Huh? You're not going to be like, "Oh, why did they choose me?" No, you're going to flat out know why they chose you. All right. So listen, I want you to assess if you are over explaining, over performing, over delivering just to be seen and accepted. If you're doing all of that because you don't feel as if you are enough, that your presence is enough. Because elegant authority starts with being deeply rooted in the truth of who you are. And when you are rooted in that truth and grounded in that truth, the room, the rooms, the places, the spaces you step into will shift to meet you. All right. Okay. So Got a little homework for you, got a little exercise for you. So here's the question. Take a screenshot if you need to. What part of me have I been shrinking that is ready to be seen? What part of me have I been shrinking, dimming, muting, downplaying, second guessing, but is ready to be seen? All right. All right. Pillar two, positioning. Positioning is a very is a brand term. Positioning is a brand term for sure. But I want you to think about it from the lens of the truth about who you are and what you carry. The truth about who you are and what you carry. And a lot of what I teach around building your brand is through the lens of identity, through the lens of reclaiming the truth of who you are. And when you have done that work, your positioning shifts because you are clearer about who you are and what you carry, the mantle you carry, the anointing you embody, the mission that you've been called to. You position based on those things. Once you position based on those things, the idea of competition becomes irrelevant. I know. Let me say that again. I hope I can say it again. If not, you might have to run it back for a few seconds if I can't totally repeat it. Because the idea of positioning shifts. The strategy of positioning shifts when you understand and embody the truth of who you are and what you carry, the mantle that's on you, the anointing that's in you, the mandate that you have, the mission that you've been called to. Once you stand in the truth of that, the idea of competition, the idea of comparison becomes irrelevant. Because positioning is about how you articulate, verbalize, express your brilliance, your anointing, your mandate, your mantle, your mission, all of those things. And that positioning allows you to not have to wait for permission, anybody's permission. You claim your space with clarity and conviction because you know the truth about who you are and what you carry. It's not about ego. It's about being fully aligned. It's about being aligned in your calling, in your mission, in your mandate, in your mantle, in your anointing. Be fully aligned in your identity and the truth of who you are in all of those facets. Okay? It's not about puffing yourself up and you don't ever have to prove your worth. It's about standing in integrity and standing in the power and the presence of who you are and who you were created to be and what you've been called to in this world. Which means it's never about performance. It's never about performance, but it always showing up in the truth and power of who you are and what you carry. Because when you step fully into that, you then step into a space that now you begin to resonate with people. People begin to hear you. They begin to see you. They begin to connect with you because now you're not looking like, sounding like, feeling like anybody else. Okay. I don't think I knew I was going to be going like this, but here we go. Because the clearer, I just want to leave this one point, the clearer you are about your value, your market value. We're not talking about your self worth. We're talking about your market value. Your self worth empowers your market value. So the clearer you are about your market value, the easier it is for the right people to say, yes, what's she talking about? I want more of that. Okay. You get to define your market value because somewhere, somewhere, somebody's going to see it, lean in, listen more, and invest in it. Okay. So you gotta own that positioning. You gotta own that. You gotta own that positioning. All right. So exercise 2. Pause it so you can write it down. Even if you want to pause and actually do the work right now, I recommend that because you're in the flow of the moment. And so the question is, if I fully owned my value, my market value, my marketplace value, if I fully owned my marketplace value, what would I no longer tolerate or explain? Now, we just talked about positioning. So that gives you a good place. If you need to run it back and play that part again, just so you can answer this question. If I fully owned my value, what would I no longer tolerate or explain? You certainly wouldn't have to explain your prices, but okay. So I want you to let this prompt, this question, reveal ways you've been diminishing or defending your market value. Let me say that again. I want you to let this question or this prompt reveal. I want you to reveal. I want you to look at ways you have been diminishing or defending your market value. All right. Because now your responsibility is to shift that. Now it's your responsibility to shift it. Okay. The third pillar in the 3 pillars of elegant authority is poise. Poise. I don't really mean poise from a modeling standpoint. Sometimes people hear poise, they hear pose, they hear, hoity toity, no, they kind of get that, but that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the invisible thread that holds presence and positioning together. We're talking about the 3 strands of elegant authority, which is presence, positioning, and poise. So, what is it? It's the grace you carry when you're fully grounded in who you are. Poise, the grace you carry when you're fully grounded in who you are. So, if presence is how you enter the room, the space, the place, and positioning is how you define your marketplace value, then poise is how you stay rooted in the truth of who you are, no matter where you are, no matter who's watching. All right. Now let me say this. Let me say this because I know the picture you already have in your head that poise is perfection, and it's not. It's not. It's about being anchored. It's about being anchored in. It's about having this cool, calm confidence because you speak from a place of embodied truth and expression of who you are. Because you show up or you don't show up to impress, but you show up to express. Huh? How does that feel? You don't show up to impress, you show up to express. And expression, aligned expression, authentic expression is not dictated by who else is in the room, who else is watching. It's dictated by and grounded in the truth of who you are. That becomes the authority. And the poise, when you add poise to that, that's where you get your elegance from. All right. I just want you to look at this from just from a different perspective, because I know you hear the word elegant and you hear the word authority, but I want you to bring them together in a beautiful, different way. I want you to leave what you think elegant is all about. But in this case, it really is about being grounded in the truth of who you are in such a way that you can move about, that your presence becomes undeniable, that your positioning becomes unmatched, and that you're allowed or you're enabled, you're empowered, you're embodied in a way that it's grounded in the truth and rooted in the truth of who you are. You can't fake poise. Poise is what remains when performance is taken away. Poise is what remains when performance is taken away. It also allows people to trust you. Remember, I talked about leaning in and more and listening more, because when you are grounded in the truth of who you are, people begin to feel safe. People begin to feel even seen. People begin to feel connected. Okay? All right. Exercise 3. Exercise 3. Where have I been performing when I could be leading with authenticity? Where have I been performing when I could be leading with authenticity? Where have I been performing instead of showing up, instead of having a presence and a positioning that's poised, rooted in truth, and poised and rooted in the truth of who I am? Where have I been performing when I could be leading with authenticity, where I could be leading with aligned expression, where I could be leading by using the truth, by showing up in the truth of who I am? Cheryl, what does this have to do with me and PR and me getting on TV segments and news segments and all those things? Everything. Everything. Presence, positioning, poise. The three pillars of elegant authority that empowers, enables, and allows you, gives you inherent permission to show up on camera, on set, on stage, on a podcast, on a video, in an interview, rooted in the truth of who you are. Woo, child. I hope this was good for you. I hope this was good for you. So I'm just going to leave it right here. Well, no, I'm not going to leave right here. You don't earn authority by performing. You embody authority by remembering who you are. You don't earn authority by performing. You embody authority by remembering who you are. And that remembrance is what provides and what gives you elegant authority. And elegant authority is what? It's three pillars: it's presence, it's positioning, and it's poise. It's presence, how you enter the room, because your presence has the power to shift the atmosphere without even trying. It's positioning. It's the positioning is you being able to be aligned with your mission, your mandate, your mantle, your anointing, what you've been called to, in a way that allows you to express and to be full bodied in your positioning and the value that you bring to the marketplace. And then poise. poise is your poise is the rock. It's the thread that holds it all together, that allows you to step fully in the truth of who you are and what you are rooted in. And I can tell you that those truths may not be self evident. You may have to go on a little expedition of self rediscovery. And I'm here to help you. I want you to activate your elegant authority. I want you to be able to sit down and to walk through this framework in a way that you begin to open up and explore and look at your presence and how you're showing up in rooms and places and spaces and shifting the atmosphere, and that you're being intentional about it, and your positioning, meaning your market value, and how you're pricing yourself, and your offers and things in the marketplace, and the poise, that truth of who you are. This isn't something that you just can sit down and do in 30 minutes. You've just gotten information. Now, how do you implement? How do you execute? How do you activate that which you have been informed of? And that's what I want to offer to you, the Elegant Authority Activation Session. This is a one-on-one session. It's just you and me walking through how to activate your elegant authority, so that um, when you are pitching to be interviewed, or go on in media or podcast or whatever, when you are you know being selected to come backstage so that you can hit the stage, but you're showing up with this elegant authority. I would love to help you do this work. This is 90 minutes of you and me creating your plan, your activation, your roadmap, so that when it's time for you to show up, you can show up in an elegant authority. So email me at Cheryl@hericonicempire.com. We can get you set up. It's a 90-minute session. And the special for this, for the backstage members, is $395. The original price is $495. And I would love to be able to sit with you and to help you create your elegant authority and activate not just your elegant authority, but activate the icon within. I'm Cheryl Pullins, the icon activator. It has been my joy, my pleasure, my privilege to be with you today on this training. And I hope to see some of you in an Elegant Authority activation session. Thank you, and we'll talk soon.